Let me share a quiet truth about what truly pulls women closer during first conversations. Most men never fully grasp it. It is not about height, wealth, or movie star looks. It is not about flashy clothes or clever lines. The real influence lives inside the words you choose early on. Small phrases shape emotion. Emotion shapes attraction, and attraction grows from how she feels, not what she sees. Right now, many men stay trapped in forgettable conversations that disappear the moment they end. You have probably seen this happen before. Maybe you walked away from a conversation and thought, why did that feel so ordinary? Or maybe you have watched someone else speak to a woman and somehow the energy changed. Suddenly she was leaning in, smiling longer, paying attention in a way that felt different. If you have ever experienced that moment or wondered why some conversations seem to spark connection while others quietly fade away, I want you to pause for a second and think about it. Because what we are about to talk about might explain the psychology behind emotional connection, something you have noticed many times but never fully understood. After observing countless real interactions, a pattern becomes clear. Certain words activate curiosity, comfort, and emotional attention almost instantly. These patterns are not complicated tricks. They are human responses that repeat across cultures and personalities. When used naturally, they help conversations feel alive. They create a sense of rhythm. One phrase sparks curiosity, another builds emotional safety. The third adds intrigue. Together, they form a quiet framework that encourages attraction without pressure. And before we go deeper into this, let me introduce myself properly. I'm Emily Carter, and you're watching The Female Game. This channel is where we explore the real psychology behind attraction, communication, and emotional connection between men and women. If you're someone who wants to understand women on a deeper level instead of memorizing surface-level advice, you're exactly where you need to be. And if you enjoy conversations like this, make sure you subscribe and stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share will completely change how you approach your next conversation. Now imagine a moment most people have experienced at least once. You meet someone new. The conversation starts with small talk. Where are you from? What do you do? How was your weekend? It's phrase number one that builds. Instant curiosity feels polite, but something is missing. The energy stays flat. Both people are technically speaking, but neither person feels pulled into the exchange. Then suddenly something shifts. Her eyes brighten a little. Her shoulders relax. The conversation slows down in a comfortable way instead of feeling rushed. There is a pause, but it doesn't feel awkward. It feels interesting, like something real might happen next. That shift is not random. It is the brain responding to emotional signals. Attraction often begins in microseconds, and words guide that process. When chosen with care, they act like switches that turn attention fully toward you. This is why two men can say almost the same things. Yet, one conversation feels magnetic while the other feels forgettable. For years, I studied how conversations either rise into connection or quietly collapse into politeness. And one of the biggest mistakes men make is chasing impressive sentences instead of meaningful emotion. They try to sound clever. They try to sound impressive. Sometimes they even try to perform. But attraction is not impressed by performance. It responds to emotional safety. When a woman feels understood and seen, something inside her relaxes. Her guard softens, and that is the moment when connection begins. These phrases work because they bypass logic and speak directly to feeling. They are not pickup lines. They are not tricks, body language that amplifies attraction. They are communication shortcuts rooted in psychology. They follow timeless social principles that existed long before modern dating advice ever appeared. People rarely remember the exact words someone used, but they always remember how that person made them feel. Emotional memory attaches your presence to a positive internal experience. And when that happens, the brain begins associating you with comfort, curiosity, and engagement. That emotional association is the quiet beginning of attraction. The first phrase activates curiosity. Curiosity is one of the strongest forces in human attention. When the brain senses an unfinished idea, it instinctively searches for closure. You have probably experienced this. When someone begins telling a story and then pauses halfway through, suddenly your attention sharpens. You want to know what happens next? That is curiosity working inside the mind. And when used gently in conversation, curiosity can transform an ordinary exchange into something memorable. Imagine she shares a personal story. Maybe she mentions a hobby, a childhood memory, or something about her personality. Instead of responding with a simple comment, you say something like this. You remind me of someone. Phrase number 2 that triggers emotional safety. Then pause and then add lightly. Actually, never mind. And continue the conversation naturally. You don't stare at her. You don't emphasize it. You simply move forward as if the thought slipped away. That small unfinished idea activates curiosity in the brain. Her mind begins circling the moment. Who did he mean? Why did he stop? What was he going to say? The key here is lightness. You are not trying to manipulate curiosity. You are simply allowing space for interest to grow. And here is the interesting part. Often she will return to that moment later. She might smile and ask, "Wait, who did I remind you of earlier?" When that moment arrives, you reveal a thoughtful observation about her personality. Not her appearance, not something superficial, something meaningful. For example, you might say, "You reminded me of someone I know who has this calm way of making everyone around them feel comfortable. When you told that story earlier, it felt similar." That moment transforms small talk into recognition. And recognition is powerful because when someone feels recognized beyond the surface, they feel seen. And feeling seen is one of the deepest emotional triggers of attraction. But the real power of this phrase is restraint. You are not rushing to explain everything immediately. You are allowing space for imagination. And imagination is one of the strongest emotional amplifiers inside the human mind. Attraction often grows in the spaces between words. Now let's talk confidence versus neediness in female psychology about the second phrase. This one is something most men attempt, but very few actually understand the compliment. Most compliments fail because they are predictable. Attractive women hear the same compliments repeatedly. "You're beautiful. You have amazing eyes. You look incredible." After hearing these hundreds of times, they start blending together. They lose emotional impact. They become background noise. But a compliment rooted in observation cuts through that noise instantly because it shows attention. And attention signals emotional intelligence. Instead of praising appearance, you acknowledge character or behavior. For example, you might say, "The way you explained that was really clear and thoughtful." Or, "You have a calm way of making people feel comfortable." Notice something important here. These compliments are not about how she looks. They are about who she is. And when someone feels appreciated for their character instead of their appearance, the emotional impact is much deeper. Specific compliments create stronger emotional reactions than general praise. They activate appreciation instead of suspicion. Generic flattery often feels transactional. Observational praise feels genuine. And when she senses authenticity, her nervous system relaxes. Safety increases attraction. Safety invites openness. Deliver the compliment. Phrase number 3. Most men never use correctly. Gently. Maintain soft eye contact. Then continue the conversation normally without waiting for approval. The goal is not applause. The goal is emotional resonance. Inside her mind, 2 emotions usually appear almost instantly: surprise, then appreciation. And those emotions quietly attach themselves to you. An advanced version of this technique combines recognition and gratitude. For example, imagine you notice something subtle about how she interacts with others. Maybe she includes quieter people in the conversation. Maybe she listens carefully before speaking. Most people never receive compliments for social awareness. So when you say something like, "I noticed earlier that you made sure everyone had a chance to speak," not many people do that. It lands differently because it reinforces identity. And identity-based compliments stay in memory far longer than appearance-based praise. But here is something important. Timing matters. If the compliment arrives too quickly or too intensely, it can feel overwhelming. Early conversations require balance. The compliment should feel like a natural observation, not a spotlight. Attraction grows best in comfortable light, not intense focus. Now, the third phrase introduces something many people misunderstand: intrigue. Intrigue does not come from silence or final attraction. Mistakes you must avoid pretending to be mysterious. True intrigue comes from selective honesty. It happens when you reveal something slightly unexpected about yourself. Maybe a small flaw, maybe a rare opinion, maybe a harmless vulnerability. This signals confidence because only secure people admit imperfections calmly. That contrast creates a tension. For example, imagine she asks what you enjoy doing in your free time. Instead of giving a predictable answer, you might say something like, "I actually have a strange habit. I like going on long walks without music or podcasts, just silence." Most people think that's weird. That moment creates intrigue because it reveals personality. And when expectations shift slightly, curiosity returns. She begins wanting to understand you. And that curiosity pulls the conversation deeper. These three phrases are not disguises. They are tools for expressing your real personality more clearly. Authenticity is the foundation. Without authenticity, techniques collapse. With authenticity, they enhance connection instead of replacing it. As you practice these ideas, you will start noticing subtle changes. Women lean closer. Questions become more thoughtful. Laughter appears faster. These are signs of emotional engagement. And engagement is the doorway to attraction. But there is another subtle conversational move that shifts energy even further. And most people never realize how powerful it is until they experience it. We'll talk about that in a moment. Before we continue, I'm curious about something. Have you ever had a conversation where everything suddenly clicked? Where the energy felt natural and easy? If you have, tell me about it in the comments. I love reading those experiences because they reveal something fascinating about human connection. Now let's continue because the next idea might completely change how you answer personal questions in conversation. And once you understand it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. Confidence grows from repetition. Each successful interaction reinforces calmness. Calmness makes your voice steadier. A steady voice communicates emotional security. And emotional security is deeply attractive because it signals safety. But there is another subtle move that shifts conversational energy in a way most people never expect. It happens when someone asks you a personal question. Most conversations follow a predictable rhythm. Question, answer, next answer. This pattern slowly turns the interaction into something that feels like an interview. It becomes mechanical. But when you gently break that rhythm, something interesting happens. Instead of answering immediately, you smile lightly and say, "What do you think?" This simple reversal does something powerful inside the human brain. It invites imagination, and imagination automatically increases emotional investment. Suddenly, she is no longer just asking questions. She is participating in the creation of the conversation. She begins guessing. She begins observing you more closely. She begins revealing her assumptions about you. And in that moment, something very important changes. The conversation becomes collaborative instead of performative. For example, imagine she asks you, "So what made you choose your career?" Instead of immediately explaining, you could respond playfully, "I'm curious, what do you think the reason is?" Now she becomes part of the exchange. Maybe she guesses your personality. Maybe she shares what she noticed about you so far. And through that guess, she reveals something about her own values and perceptions. This is one of the most fascinating aspects of conversation psychology. People reveal themselves while trying to understand others. And when that process feels playful instead of serious, attraction often appears naturally. But there is a small detail that makes this technique work. Pause. Silence is not your enemy in conversation. In fact, silence often amplifies meaning. A brief pause before responding adds weight to your words. It signals that you are comfortable, relaxed, and not rushing to fill every moment. And that calm presence communicates confidence without a single sentence. Your body language matters here too. A relaxed smile, soft eye contact, a slight tilt of curiosity in your voice. These microsignals tell the brain something important. This person is comfortable being present, and presence is magnetic. But remember something important. Do not overuse the reversal technique. If every question receives the same playful response, it can begin feeling evasive. Balance keeps it charming. The deeper principle here is something I want you to remember. Emotional leadership. You are not controlling the conversation. You are guiding the energy. Emotional leadership means you stay relaxed while gently inviting engagement. You shape rhythm without forcing direction. And when someone feels that calm guidance, the conversation begins flowing naturally. This principle extends far beyond dating. It improves friendships. It strengthens work relationships. It transforms social presence. Because communication is not only about information, it is about emotional experience. Knowledge alone will not change your interactions. Application will. So here is something I encourage you to try this week. Choose just one of these phrases, only one. Use it naturally in a real conversation. Observe what happens. Did the energy change? Did curiosity appear? Did the conversation last longer? Reflection builds social skill far faster than theory ever will. And here is something even more important. Pay attention to your internal emotional state. If your thoughts are rushed, your speech becomes tense. If your mind is calm, your voice naturally becomes steady. Attraction mirrors emotional atmosphere. Create the emotional atmosphere you want others to feel. As you continue practicing, conversations begin feeling smoother. Silence becomes lighter. You stop chasing approval and start enjoying the exchange. And enjoyment is magnetic. People gravitate toward those who genuinely enjoy their own presence. This is one of the quiet truths about attraction that many people miss. Attraction is rarely loud. It grows quietly through repeated moments of comfort, curiosity, and emotional ease. These phrases simply open the door. Your authenticity keeps that door open. Stay patient with yourself. Mastery does not appear overnight. It develops gradually through awareness, experience, and reflection. Every interaction becomes feedback, not judgment. Feedback. And when you approach social experiences with curiosity instead of pressure, improvement happens naturally. In the end, strong connection comes from three simple qualities: clarity, honesty, emotional awareness. Techniques guide the process, but character anchors the result. When both align, attraction unfolds without force. So carry these ideas lightly. Speak with intention. Listen with real attention. Allow conversations to unfold instead of trying to control every moment. When presence replaces performance, people feel it immediately, and that feeling is what draws them closer. If you enjoyed this conversation and want more insights into human connection and psychology, make sure you subscribe to The Female Game and join this community. And before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which idea stood out to you the most today? The curiosity phrase, the hidden compliment, or the playful question rehearsal? Tell me in the comments. I read them all. And your experiences often inspire the next conversations we have here together. And remember something simple but powerful. Words shape emotional experience more than status ever will. A man with presence and thoughtful speech often creates stronger attraction than someone relying only on appearance or wealth, because emotional intelligence leaves a deeper imprint than external markers. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next conversation. Before we close, I want you to pause for a moment and think about something simple but powerful. Think about the last time you met someone who felt easy to talk to, someone who didn't try too hard, someone who didn't rush to impress you, yet somehow the conversation stayed with you long after it ended. What made that interaction memorable? Most of the time, it wasn't because that person said something extraordinary. It wasn't because they used clever lines or dramatic stories. It was because they created a feeling of ease, a feeling of curiosity, a feeling that the conversation had space to breathe. That is the real secret behind attraction in conversation. It's not about performing. It's about creating an emotional atmosphere. And once you understand that, everything begins to shift. The phrases we talked about today are simply small doorways into that atmosphere. The curiosity phrase creates a gentle tension that makes the brain lean forward. The hidden compliment creates emotional recognition that makes someone feel seen. The playful question reversal creates shared energy that transforms a conversation into something alive. Individually, each one is subtle, but together they change the rhythm of interaction in a powerful way. And here is something very important to remember. These ideas only work when they come from a place of authenticity. If you try to force them, people will feel it. Human beings are extremely sensitive to emotional sincerity. We detect tone, intention, and energy faster than we detect words. So the real skill is not memorizing phrases. The real skill is becoming more present. Presence changes everything. When you are truly present in a conversation, you notice details. You notice tone. You notice how someone reacts, how they laugh, how they pause before speaking. And those small observations allow you to respond in ways that feel natural instead of rehearsed. This is why emotional intelligence is such a powerful advantage in communication. It allows you to adapt instead of perform. It allows you to connect instead of impress. And ironically, the moment you stop trying to impress people is often the moment they become most interested in you. Because confidence is quiet. Confidence doesn't rush. Confidence allows space. One of the most fascinating psychological patterns I've observed over the years is this. The people who create the strongest attraction are rarely the ones trying hardest to create it. They are simply comfortable being themselves while paying attention to the other person. They listen. They respond thoughtfully. They allow curiosity and emotion to naturally appear in the exchange. And that combination feels incredibly rare in today's fast-paced world. Most conversations today move too quickly. People interrupt each other. People rush to fill silence. People try to prove their value before the other person has even finished speaking. But when someone slows down, listens carefully, and speaks with intention, it immediately stands out. It feels different. It feels calm. It feels attractive. And that calm presence is something you can develop, not overnight, but gradually. Start by practicing awareness. The next time you're speaking with someone, try something simple. Instead of planning your next sentence while they talk, focus completely on what they're saying. Listen to their tone. Notice their expressions. Pay attention to the small details in their story. When you respond to what actually mattered in what they said. You'll be surprised how quickly conversations become deeper when someone feels truly heard, because feeling heard is one of the most powerful emotional experiences we can give another person. And interestingly, when you make someone feel heard, they automatically become more interested in you. This happens because the brain associates you with a positive emotional experience. Again, it comes back to that same principle. People remember how you made them feel. Another small exercise I often suggest is this: practice being comfortable with silence. Most people panic when a pause appears in conversation. They rush to fill it with words, jokes, or explanations. But silence is not a problem. Silence is space, and space allows emotion to settle and meaning to land. If you say something thoughtful and then allow a short pause afterward, the impact of your words actually increases. The brain processes the moment. The other person reflects on what you said, and suddenly the conversation feels deeper without needing more words. This is why great communicators often speak slightly slower than average. They allow moments to breathe. They don't rush through emotional exchanges. They give the interaction time to develop naturally. So if there is one habit you can start building today, it's this: slow down your conversations. Listen more carefully. Speak with more intention. Allow curiosity to appear naturally and watch how people respond differently to you. Now, I want to ask you something important. When you think about your own conversations, which part do you think you struggle with the most? Is it starting conversations? Is it keeping them interesting? Or is it feeling confident enough to express your personality? Let me know in the comments. Seriously, I read through them all, and the experiences people share there often inspire future conversations on this channel. Sometimes the most powerful insights come from the stories you share with each other. And if today's conversation helped you see communication in a new way, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to The Female Game. It helps the channel grow and allows us to keep exploring the psychology of human connection together, because that's really what this space is about. Not quick tricks, not manipulation, but understanding the deeper emotional patterns that shape attraction, relationships, and communication. The more you understand those patterns, the less confusing human connection becomes, and the more natural your interactions begin to feel. So as you go into your next conversation, remember something simple. You don't need perfect words. You don't need a perfect script. You just need awareness, curiosity, and the willingness to be present. Let your words reflect genuine attention. Let your compliments reflect real observation. Let your curiosity invite deeper exchange. When those three things align, conversations stop feeling like effort. They start feeling like discovery. And discovery is one of the most attractive emotional experiences we can share with another person. Thank you for spending this time with me today. And until our next conversation, remember this: when presence replaces performance, people feel it immediately. And that feeling is what quietly draws them closer.